Time is now 1100 hours, 20 December. Interview with Mr. Eugene P. Whitney at Latham headquarters. Interviewer is Lieutenant Colonel Robert von Hassel. Gene, tell me a little bit about your life before you entered the service. Where were you born? What you did when you grew up?
I was born right here in Saratoga Springs. And when World War II broke out in '42, Pearl Harbor, my dad went to Rome, New York, and worked in a defense factory. And when I was in my senior year of high school, I was drafted. This was the end of '43, and things were pretty bad then. A bunch of they were going into the high school and took us out. So then I went, and then I was in the South Pacific.
You were drafted into the Navy?
I was drafted, period, and then I opted for the Navy.
And where were you, what was your first duty station in the Navy?
Sampson.
Sampson.
Boot camp.
What was it like?
It was cold. Really cold, yeah. I actually, the interesting thing, I came into Albany first, and we were issued a white blanket. I still have it. White woolen blanket. And we had the old Kenmore Hotel. No furniture or anything. We were in the first night we slept on the floor on this nice white blanket. Yeah. We had a little freedom when we went out and went to the movies. There were two movies there, the Palace, and I think it was the old Rocco, or something like that. And that's where we spent the first evening.
And then after that it was off to Sampson?
Oh yes, off to Sampson, right? Yep, yep.
And what was boot camp like?
It wasn't bad. I didn't, you know, I played football, and I enjoyed myself. I liked calisthenics. I liked doing that sort of thing. So it wasn't a strain or anything, but it was very cold, very cold.
And then after Sampson, where did you go?
I went to Solomon's. It was a amphibious training station. But then I got a ship called LCS, LCS 85. And you know what an LCS is?
Mm-hmm. Landing Craft Support?
Yeah, yeah. Little gunboat's what it really is. Yeah. And from there I went up to, it was on the Okinawa picket line. That was my experience.
Now they were rocket ships, weren't they?
We did have rockets, yeah. I happened to be the rocket captain on my ship, yeah. But actually all it was just, they were little 6.5-pound bombs with a detonator in the back, and we had these racks on the front of the ship, and you just loaded them down carefully, and then as you're going in, you get to the right spot, and you push the button, and they all go off. If you do it just right, it's very effective. If you don't, you just lose a lot of ammunition.
Did you get to, were they fired during the invasion of Okinawa?
Yes, yes, yeah. Torishima was one of the islands that I happened to be on. Yeah. And at that time there was a lot of, this was the big suicide time. And it wasn't just the airplanes, they had these boats that they called the skunks, we called them the skunks. And then at night they would come out with ammunition in their bow and aim at the big ships. And our first duty was to kind of patrol that sort of thing. Then they spotted them from the air, and we would go in on a landing party and try to blow them up and come back. And then after a while there were so many air attacks that they formed what they called the picket line. And the destroyers were the ones with the radar, and then we had four to six LCSs on each side of the destroyer to sort of ward off air attacks for that. And there were 16 of those stations, and we just kept going back and forth. And that lasted about 82 days.
What was it like on picket duty off of Okinawa?
Well, you didn't get much sleep. Like, there were a lot of casualties, and I was a very lucky guy, and I appreciate it. you know.
Did you actually engage the kamikazes as they'd come over?
Yes, yes, yeah. I also was the gun captain of the 40 millimeter anti-aircraft, you know, and we had we got some kills.
What were you thinking at the time? I mean, you were a young man
I was
from
young.
New York.
I was young and I didn't think. That's the whole story. I thank God I didn't think. Yeah. No, I had one experience that I've written, and it's scheduled to be published. And after I retired, I started the writing, and this is one that's coming out in not too distant future.
Mm-hmm.
It was a sort of a crazy mistake in a way. You want to hear about it?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, we were on the picket line, and you'd usually there'd be diversions, like they wanted to get into hit the destroyer. They were the guys that took a lot of punishment. And so this one time there were a couple of planes coming in on the side, and we had two other 40 millimeters, and they were doing that. So it was an old trick, so you'd always look around to see what else was coming. And there was this Jap Betty was coming up in the front, and I spied it, so we turned around. Well, just to give you some background on it, at that time we didn't have time to really do too much maintenance on the guns, and so there were two things that happened. There were misfires, and there was a short recoil. And if a misfire, you've got to take the shell out of the chamber, or otherwise you explode the gun yourself. Short recoil, all you do is just check it. Well, now there's a procedure, about a 30-second procedure that takes about 60 seconds whenever the gun stops. And everybody gets off the gun, and the gun captain is supposed to elevate it and look up to see if there's a shell in there. If it is, take it out, get it overboard as quick as possible, and get the gun back firing. Well, this plane was coming in, and as I say, I was just a young boy. I was 18 years old, 18 and a half, or something like that. And the gun stopped, and I just said a prayer, cocked the gun, and thank God it worked out. But it wasn't until after that I realized, that, hey, this was not really Hoyle. This was not following what I had been taught. Mm-hmm. And I say it was the hand of God. And that is the most memorable experience that I can think of. I've seen the whole fantail of the destroyer. The plane came in. There was the 5-incher turret in the back. After the explosion, it was just a flat nothing. There was nothing there. That was one of the first things that I had seen. But this other one stuck in my mind. I never. The pointer was an older man. I mean, older. He was 28 years old, and he was quite shaken. And he saw me after, and he says, "What did you? What went on there?" And I said, "Well, I saw the light." Well, I didn't see a light. It wasn't that bright, but I was thinking of another light, I guess, hopefully, and I never was questioned on it again. I suppose it's something that you could even be reprimanded seriously for, and I've never really said it until recently, and I thought when I was writing this I added it in. But those are the things that happen. And I'm sure I've seen a lot of other things that happened that didn't turn out too good. This one turned out good.
What were some of the other things you wrote about?
Well, one was a quiet day. I was on short, we had come back and was on what you call small boat duty. And our first call was to go over and pick up a fellow from another boat. And when we got there, he had his bandage where the arm was, you know, and the pharmacist mate was with him. See, on these little ships, you only have a pharmacist mate. And he was white, you know, and we had just gotten off of duty, and we really wanted to sack out. And we had to take him over to the boat. Now, we didn't, there was no conversation, you know, you think how cold that was. And this bothered me after. We just did the job. Got it over with as fast as possible. The guy passed out on the way over. Never knew his name. Didn't know either one of their names. Nobody said anything. Dropped him off, came back. Just near the end of the thing, we were told to go and fish out a body in the water, you know. And so we scooted out, scooped it up, and pushed it down the bottom of the boat there. And our thing was over with. We just left it, and the next guys had to take care of it. And then we went hit the sack. It sounds so cold, and it really bothered me after, you know, that you could be so uncaring, so to speak. And but actually, there you do your duty, and that was it. Somebody told you to do this, you did that. And when you got through, maybe you could sack out. And
Why do you think you were so uncaring?
I don't know why I was so uncaring. It just, you'd seen a lot of things that weren't so good. I don't know. I think it was a good thing. I think for my personal self, it probably. I could have been a lot more shaken up, you know, I don't know. I don't know why I was so uncaring. And that's what I actually, when I writing was the feelings. And then when we got in the occupational forces, I met Japanese people. And I was taken with the little boys. When we first went there, they put all the women out, you know, because they thought we were going to be like the Japanese were when they took over Manila and so forth. And these little boys would come down to fish for their meal. I thought, what courage! Here they are, little boys, big ships here, and the enemy was right there by them, and that really impressed me. Impressed me very much.
How long were you on occupation duty?
I was there 6 months. We actually, after we got through Okinawa, we went down to the Philippines, and we were ready to the invasion of Japan, and we were set for that. We know this is what we're going to do. But in the process there, the bomb was dropped, and at the end of the war, well, we were told, hey, don't kid yourself. You know what happened to Pearl Harbor? Get ready to go in there. But everybody said, well, no, there was mixed feelings there. I know our captain would say, well, hey, listen, guys, be ready. But the word that came down was that now everything is just friendly and lovely. So we were put on shore patrol to go around, and I think we're just to test the waters to see if there was something going to happen. But nothing happened.
Do you remember when you first got to Japan?
Yeah. Yeah, I went to Yokosuka. I think I know that very well. Yokosuka. It's there's Tokyo, Yokohama, and Yokosuka was a naval base. And we were there. Yeah, I can remember that. A lot of the ships were half sunk, and we went on some of them, got souvenirs. That's it. I don't think that's right, but they did it.
Did you, when did you arrive in Japan?
Well, right there with the same, with that whole force, the task force. I mean, I don't remember the exact date.
Mm-hmm. Well, was it before or after the surrender ceremony?
I think we were in the bay. We did not get on. We did not dock until after the ceremony. I don't. We were somewhere in the water. You know. I don't even remember that we did see land, but I'm not sure it was Tokyo or anything like that. You know. But we weren't right next to the Missouri. It was in Missouri, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But we weren't right next to them. You know. We were in the water, part of it, the big, you know, the task force, the invasion force, actually.
So when you actually did land in Japan, what did you expect would be the response you'd receive from the Japanese?
Well, you know, there was a sort of a hatred, and I can remember going on, try to keep really good control, but going in one of the cars went by, and one of our guys just took his fist and bammed it through the window, you know, of the car. Well, gee, we thought we committed some kind of a big crime, and you know, that was an emotion that I had there. What is this? They were trying to kill. They were shooting us down and everything else. I was young at the time, and here's a guy that the car did come in front, you know, and it might have irritated a little bit, you know, and he just bammed it and broke the window. And I thought that there was a big to-do about nothing, and a big lecture and all this kind of stuff. But I can see now that we were, you know, I can understand it better now than I did then. You know. And then I got to, as I said, I got to understand that they were people. They were drafted, or whatever you want to call it, and they served their country like we served our country. I mean, they're human beings. And then I read a lot about how the Japanese Americans were treated out in California. And gee, that makes you feel pretty bad too, you know?
Any other observations about the way U.S. and Japanese personnel got along during the occupation?
Well, after a while, things they became Americanized, I think. There were little stands around who were selling raw fish, which I never bothered with. When I got there, the Tokyo was almost leveled, and what was interesting was you'd see all this rubble, and there'd be a safe. I thought it'd be a wonderful advertisement for the safe company. It's safe over here, safe over there. Here, all of this rubble, and you've got these safes, and they looked like they were, you know, you could sell them. And that was an impression that made. Yeah.
What did you do on your off time in Japan?
You know, we did a lot of sack. You know, I did go to Miyanoista, on Fujiyama. We had later on we had I don't know what you call them, a Liberty break or something, where they say, well, now, how many guys want to go up to a resort? So we went to this place in Miyanoista. This was quite an interesting trip for me. I walked up the mountain, and there's pools. As you go up the mountain, they're all steaming water, and then there was this resort hotel-like. Not so much like ours, but it wasn't too bad. And each room had its own sunken bath. And constant water coming in, constant water going out. It was the warm water from Fujiyama. And that was very impressive. And I remember I paid, I had 2 woolen socks and a can of Vienna sausage. And that was my fare for the room. And then they had a public bath, which some of the guys went to. I didn't bother going to it. Everybody goes in and takes a bath, and it didn't appeal to me. But just for kicks, a lot of guys did it.
So what happened after your occupation duty in Japan?
I was sent back, and yeah, it's a long story, and I probably don't want to get into this one. But I got on, I was transferred in Pearl Harbor, and to another ship, and the ship was an old LCI, and we got part ways out, and started to sink, and I came back. And finally I ended up in Lido Beach, Long Island.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I got my discharge. Yeah. And then, of course, like a lot of fellas, I got the GI Bill, and I'd have to thank the government for whoever thought of that. They talk about a monument and so forth. I think that's great for the guys who didn't make it back, when they deserve it. But for me, the recognition with the GI Bill was real payment. It enhanced my life
How so?
tremendously. Well, I went to college. I was the first person in my family that graduated from college, and naturally you have more, you make more money, and you live a better life if you're a college graduate. Basically. My cousin George was one of the first to give his life over in the South Pacific, and that's one of the reasons I wanted the Navy. And I think it would be nice to have the monument for him.
So what did you do after you graduated college?
Well, I was an accountant for a year, assistant controller for a corporation. So I thought that's where all the money was. And then I got some sense, and I thought, well, it's not much of a life. So I decided I wanted to go into teaching and coaching. So I went back to school and became a teacher and a coach.
Do you ever draw on any of your World War II experiences in your teaching or your coaching?
I never said much about it, no. And it wasn't until I retired that I started writing. And I wrote essays, basically, and no one ever bothered to think about those. They're dull. So I thought, well, hey, I'll write stories, make an essay into a story. That's how I started writing what you call them, mini novels or whatever you want to call them. My title is Short Stories and Tall Tales.
And that's the book that's about to come out?
Yeah.
And it's fictionalized on your experiences?
This is just one of the experience of my naval experience is one of the stories, short stories, and it's based on that. The publishers have an input, and there's a romantic interest that wasn't there, but it's written in.
Well, we'd like to get a copy of it when it comes out. Is there anything that's not in the book that you'd like to talk about?
No, I think that I think that it should definitely have a memorial to the guys that didn't make it. the destroyer guys that, there's an awful lot of, actually, in the one that I was involved with, there were more naval lives lost than in any other war. And they were fighting a different kind of an enemy. The kamikaze was they were devoted. I mean, if you look back at it, a lot of courage there. A lot of courage. I have and this, I shouldn't be telling you this, but I have a souvenir, a sake cup that supposedly kamikazes take their pledge, and you have to admire, you know, that sort of soft pedals the feeling you have about Pearl Harbor, which is not a good feeling. You go by those ships and you know that there's guys down there still. I mean, their bodies are still in the ship, and that's cleaning the villages is the thing that I was the worst experience of my life. Oh God, that it is, you know, was no danger, but you crawl in there and I don't know, it's just, I think it gave me claustrophobia. You ever had anything to do with the bilges in the ship?
No.
They're way underneath, and there's like catacombs there, and then you crawl. Well, I didn't do much of that. I didn't do anything else.
I see that you were in the Navy Reserve.
Yes, I was, and that was a very a good experience. I mean, I was proud to do it. I served on the egress recap. That was the debriefing of the POWs when they came back. You know, when they that first started coming back, there were an awful lot of people unaccounted for, and that was the basic idea, was to try to get these people to find out who's missing. Who did you know? Who did you know? There's one sailor, and I can't remember his name, that we interviewed, and he had a list, hundreds of names. He just memorized. He had that kind of a mind to memorize. Doug. He fell. He was on a boat, and he somehow fell and got off. You remember this fellow?
I've heard of him.
Yep. And the Japanese picked him up, and he memorized all these names. And it was phenomenal.
Now, this was the return of prisoners from
Vietnam.
Vietnam.
See, after I graduated from college, and I was teaching, I had the opportunity to get a direct commission and go into naval intelligence, in which I was in for 22 years. And I was also information officer, blue and gold officer, they call them, for the Naval Academy. That you interview boys in this area that want to go to the academy. And that was a good experience too.
Where was your Naval Reserve station?
Well, several. Albany was basically. Then I also served some time in Binghamton, and then in Weymouth Naval Air Station. And then my ACT-UTRAs were practically all over Denver, Lowry Air Force Base in Denver, and down in Norfolk quite a few times, and down in Jacksonville, Florida a few times. Yeah, I worked on a computer program down in Jacksonville for a couple of times. Yeah. That was a good experience. And then I retired from that too.
Were you also a member of the New York Naval Militia?
No, I don't even know about the Naval Militia. I'm in that fleet. I've joined a lot of those, what do you call it, the fleet?
Fleet Reserve Association?
Fleet Reserve, and a few of these others, VFW, those. But basically, I'd have to say that's more or less just paying the dues.
Were you there for the typhoon off of Okinawa? What was that like?
Well, that was, there's been several, it's a monsoon. I thought it was a monsoon.
With a large storm.
Well, I was on a little, 157 feet long. When you're up at the top of the swell, you're up here, and you see everybody. You get down here, and you don't see anything but the water. Yeah. I wasn't really frightened. I'd have to say that all the way through the service, I didn't know enough to be frightened, and I'm thankful to God for that. But I read the Bible several times, and I had a very strong faith.
Did you ever find that faith being tested during the war?
Not to the point where, I think I know what you mean by tested. No, I don't think it was really tested. You have faith, period.
It was a great help to you?
Great help. Great help. Yep. I appreciate it more now than I did then. Yeah.
Looking back now, it's been a long time, but
55 years.
what do you remember most of your experiences during the war?
I think the ones I told you.
Do you feel like it was worth it?
Well, worth it? No. No, not for the boys that didn't come back. No. Now, when you say worth it, I mean, we had to do it. We had to do it, but the GI Bill was a great thing, but it certainly wasn't worth my cousin Georgie's life. And so that's a hard question. And was it worth it? I mean, you know, I don't know. I think we had to do it.
Why did we have to do it?
We were attacked, man. I mean, it was World War II. I mean, the people, the communists wanted to control us. I mean, I wouldn't want to live in a communist state with you. I mean, it was our freedom, our way of life. What would you do, you know? I think that almost all of I felt sorry for the Vietnamese, the Vietnam veterans and so forth. They didn't have that same nice feeling from the support of the people. I mean, there were songs and everything else, and you just felt like, hey, I want to be in this. I have to be in this. I'm just doing what I should do. Yeah.
You say you feel that a monument would be a good thing.
Well, something, I guess. I mean, we came back, we got the GI Bill. I can't tell you how much I think that was a wonderful thing. But what recognition has been given to the guys who didn't come back? Now, my cousin George is, yeah, the VFW. There's a flag on there every Memorial Day. That's it, you know. I don't know. I really don't even know what kind of a memorial would be. I think they should be recognized. I mean, they are from every other war. I was interested in Governor Pataki's the high school diploma program. That's something. 75 years old or so, and you're going to get your high school diploma. Fortunately, the GI Bill gave me a PhD, but I noticed in the paper some of the guys just getting their high school diploma, and that's something.
The state's also building its own World War II memorial.
Is that right?
It's going to go up next to the library.
What library?
State library, state museum.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Just Chelsea, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. And the design work's already been finished, and hopefully it'll be completed next year.
Oh, that's good. That's good. You put the names of the fellows that were killed?
Couldn't put all the names.
No, it's too many. Too many, yeah.
But we tried to list as many of the battles and campaigns and key dates. It's going to be quite nice. I think it's going to be actually nicer than the one down in Washington.
And where's that, Bob? It's going to be next to the building?
Mm-hmm.
outside, huh?
Right.